Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jared and today I'm going to be showing you guys the easiest way to disassemble your Manix 2 in order to either clean it or to replace the ball cage and spring assembly. So we're just going to get started right now. All we're going to need today is a T8 and a T10 and a piece of tape, but more on that in a minute. So I like to do this from the Chicago side. I suppose it doesn't necessarily matter what side you open up the knife from because it's an ambidextrous knife. But this is just the side that I do because it has the pocket clip, and you will have to remove the pocket clip if you access it from this side and your pocket clip is on the side, because the pocket clip is actually seated into the liner. Cool. So now that that pocket clip is off, we can just go right on down the line, starting with the back standoff screw, then we can do the front. And anytime you adjust the front standoff screw, you should be pulling back on the ball cage assembly because it will help align the holes better. You'll see that in just a minute. And then we're going to be removing the pivot. Cool, and we're pretty much good to go at this point. We can open the knife here. And then we can pretty much just do exactly what we do with our PM2s. We can fan the assembly out from the lanyard tube. Now, in this case, I'm going to be removing the scale and the liner. And don't forget about your washer either. Cool, so at this point, this is where the tape is going to come in handy. You don't have to do this, but it will really, it can really save your ass sometimes, because this can be a real pain in the ass, especially if you lose a spring. So you want to put the tape around the knife, making sure not to be too tight and making sure not to cover that standoff. Okay, once that's done, press it down there. All right, and then we're going to be going to the front right here. So since we're just in the front, you want to pull back on the lock. And you want to be doing that. And it's also important to note you want the blade to be in this position, otherwise it can fall on your fingers, which would not be good. Cool. So now that that's the way that it is, we're going to be pushing that up, pulling the blade out, all while pulling back on this. So pull back on the lock, push up on the frame, and then we're going to be pulling out the blade. Okay, got the blade. And easy squeezy. So it's important to note that there are two sides to this ball cage. There is a top and there's a bottom. You want to have the ball cage oriented in a way where the top is facing up. So just think top up, like you're topping up a drink. And you drop in the ball from the top. Cool. So now at this point, you can do whatever you need to do with your washers, clean them, get your new ball cage assembly and spring out, whatever. Take off your tape, put that aside, and then we're ready to basically put things back together. So that's about the clearance that you're going to need to get everything back and situated. So let's grab our assembly, place the back of the spring into the housing right there while putting your finger over that. And you want it to be seated, you want it to be seated basically so the center of the pivot is kind of in line with the center of the ball. You want it to basically be simulating how it would sit if the knife were completely assembled, as opposed to the ball cage sticking out there or not being in deep enough, if that makes sense. So when you have that done, press down on the top of this, hold it for a second, go get your tape, put it back over just like you did before, being sure not to cover up that screw. It doesn't have to be too tight. Okay. And then from here, I'm actually going to tighten this back guide just a little bit, all right? And then we're going to be doing the same thing, but in reverse order. So we are going to be pulling back on the ball cage first. Then we're going to be pushing up on the top of this, just so we get a little bit more clearance, like right there. And then we're going to be taking the blade, seating it just like that, then pushing down on that. Still sits there right like that. And then while the tape is still there, you're going to want to take your standoff screw from the other side, screw that bad boy in. You might have to push back a little bit on the knife, or I mean on the ball spring. Yeah, and make sure, again guys, when you're pulling back on the ball spring like this, that the blade is facing down like this, otherwise it'll swing forward. Cool, and at this point, we're basically done. So then remove the tape and double check that this spring is more or less flush and not in any danger of coming out there. Sometimes if you can get if this is caught around the end of the coil, sometimes it likes to catch the edge of that and pop out. But we're actually good to go in this case. Double check that everything is working. Sweet. And then we just put it back together, guys. And with this knife, there really is no order of assembly like there is like with a, you know, a compression lock knife or anything like that. Just remember, anytime you do touch these screw standoffs in the front, you want to be pulling back on the ball cage, and when you do, you want to have the blade up like this so it doesn't fall on you. And then you grab the pivot, put that bad boy in, and check it out, guys, we are done. Centered. Pretty decent lockup, and it drops. Alrighty guys, thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you on the next one.